Hi, my name is Joanna Lindenbaum, and I am so happy to be here today. I was so excited when Tanya invited me to be part of this project because the sacred art of facilitation is something that I've really dedicated so much of my work to over the last years. I help new and advanced and seasoned practitioners and teachers and trainers and facilitators become the best of the best at what they do. I help them stand out when they facilitate their group events and retreats and workshops and circles. And there's a really important reason why I've dedicated so much focus and attention and loving work to supporting women to be masterful facilitators, and here's why. Because I believe that right now in the coaching industry, in the transformation industry, in the self-help industry, in the spiritual industries, we've gone a little bit astray. We have placed so much emphasis on marketing ourselves. And there's nothing wrong with marketing. I help women market as well, but we've placed so much emphasis on marketing that we have really stepped away from being the best of the best at delivering quality, at delivering transformational results from our clients. We've stepped away from being the best that we can be so that we deliver events that are rock the house, that our participants and clients are really moved by, and that create long-lasting results. And here's the thing. Marketing becomes, and growing your business and marketing becomes so much easier when you are a master facilitator and when you're delivering quality work. Because when you really stand out as a master facilitator at your retreats, at your events, at your circles, then your clients keep on coming back to you over and over again. They rave about you to their friends, and you get easy referrals. You build your reputation. And also, when new people are at your events, when you show up as the master, you show up as the authority, and they connect with your brilliance, and their lives are changed and impacted, and then they want to work with you. So I am really on this mission to help people become better and better and better at being facilitators so that we can raise the bar on the transformational industry. And also because I believe that this industry is meant to be part of the bigger healing of the world, especially at this time in history right now. And I'm really on a mission to help to create that revolution and to help women become better practitioners so they can make more of that impact. So I'm so excited to be here today and to share with you some important things that I've learned about the art of facilitation. And what I wanted to share with you today is something that is really foundational. It's something that I identified for myself over 2 decades of facilitating circles, retreats, workshops, and events, hundreds of them, and also something that I identified through supporting so many of my students and clients through, and that's that there are 4 levels of learning and processing that as a facilitator you want to create for your participants, for your circle members, for your retreat audiences. It's not enough to just create one of these levels of learning and processing, or 2 or 3. You actually, like the secret sauce to creating transformational rock house experiences, deep experiences, moving experiences, impactful experiences for your audiences, is to have these 4 levels that I'm going to teach you about today. When you don't have these 4 levels, a couple of things can happen. Number one, your retreats or events or circles can fall flat. Like people think they're okay, they had a nice time, it was good, but they're not like, oh my gosh, that was life-changing for me. If you don't have these 4 levels of learning and processing in place, oftentimes your participants can leave your events feeling a little unsatisfied or incomplete, or even worse, really stuck in their obstacles, really kind of stuck in their fears and in their stuff. So we really want to, as facilitators and as masterful facilitators, we really want to use all 4 of these levels of learning and processing. Most facilitators do not know about these 4 levels. And even if they do know, they're not really using them in their circles and retreats and workshops and events. And this is what can really help you stand out as a facilitator, create even more amazing results for your participants and your clients, and really make that impact that you want to make. So let's dive into what those 4 levels are. The first level of learning and processing that you absolutely, as a facilitator, want to make sure is present when you facilitate is the mental level, the intellectual level. You want to make sure that you have exercises and different things that are helping to create and open up and activate the intellectual understanding of your participants. If you don't have this mental level, people are going to end up feeling confused or misinformed. And, I mentioned this, but in some ways it's obvious, right? Of course we want to create mental learning. It's usually like the first place we think is with our intellect. But the reason why I mention this is because oftentimes, particularly if we're healers or we are facilitating rituals, we're doing work that doesn't necessarily engage the mind. And it's really important to put some of that intellectual learning and processing in there. There are really specific protocols that you want to use, whether you're giving a talk, a presentation, or doing a circle or a retreat, that will really unlock your participants' cognitive learning portals. So you want to make sure, whatever you do, that you're teaching, number one, on that first level. And when I train facilitators on how to become even more masterful facilitators, I train them in a lot of ways to be able to unlock this mental and intellectual learning and process level. We talk a lot about how to use, writing and journaling are very much about the intellect, right? So we talk about all different ways to use writing and journaling. We talk about dialogue. Speaking is so much about the intellect, different exercises and ways to use the group and ways to use speaking to, again, activate that mental and intellectual learning and processing level. We also do I teach a lot of my facilitators how to do very, very deep belief work with your clients, how to really facilitate that belief work. Beliefs are all about thoughts. Thoughts are all about the intellect. So when we talk about belief work, we are addressing that mental, that intellectual, that cognitive level. That is really the first level, the building block that's so important to create transformation in your groups. The next level that is also incredibly vital, that you want to use as a facilitator to create transformation, to create amazing results-based events, is the emotional level. Putting my hand on my heart, right? Because it's about our hearts. It's about our feelings. You could be the best teacher in the world and teach so many amazing new ideas and thoughts and processes and skills on the intellectual level, but if you don't know how to teach people to process then those ideas on the emotional level, on that feeling level in their hearts, then they're never going to really have that open heart, that passion to be able to follow through on what they've learned from you on the intellectual level. You want once you address the intellect, then you want to create experiences that permeate on that feeling level. Again, without the feeling level, without the emotional level of learning, that passion, that open-heartedness, and the creativity. Creativity is so much in the heart. None of that is there to be able to follow through, to go deeper with what they're learning. And that's why when I train my facilitators to be even better event leaders and even better masterful facilitators, one of the big things that I train them on is how to help your audiences befriend their fears. Fear is very much an emotional thing, and we can't actually use intellectual learning, mental learning to teach people how to move through their fears. We have to really address it on the emotional, the heart level, the feeling level. So, that's one of the things you really want to work on for this level. Another thing that I teach about extensively to my facilitators, I teach them how to use and activate and heal shadow. Shadow, again, is an emotional level, is on the emotional level of learning and processing. And shadow is so much about those energies inside of you that really sabotage you. So maybe you have a destructive energy, for example. Maybe there's a bitchy shadow. Maybe there's a sabotage shadow. Maybe there's a competitive shadow. Maybe there's a lazy shadow. We can't get to any of that shadow work through the intellect. You have to address it on the emotional level. The other thing that I teach facilitators to do in order to really unlock this emotional feeling level of learning and processing for your audience members is I teach you how to actually activate and trigger emotion in the room. Now, when you first hear that, you might say, like, what is she talking about? Like, we don't want to trigger emotion in the room. That's a little bit manipulative. It's manipulation for healing purposes. So you don't want flatlining in your room. You don't want people to just feel solid the entire time. You don't want them to feel the same emotion throughout the entire retreat or throughout the entire workshop. If they do, you're not going to get into the nooks and crannies of their emotional processing. So I very intentionally and on purpose, when I facilitate and when I teach people how to facilitate, I teach you how to activate grief in the room, right? Because sometimes to get to the next level of healing and results and learning, we have to be able to sit with our sorrow and to grieve and to really be in that sadness. Sometimes I facilitate to activate anger in the room, right? We want to have a safe container, and that's a very big and important part of facilitating. You need a safe container, a solid container to do this deeper emotional facilitating, but sometimes anger needs to be worked through. It's an emotion that can block so much. Sometimes we actually want to activate the anger so that your participants can get onto that next level of learning and processing and creating results for themselves. Okay, third level of learning and processing that any master facilitator really needs to create in the room is spiritual learning and processing. Now, first, let me just say, when I say spiritual, I don't mean that you have to be woo-woo. If you are, wonderful. If not, that's fine. You don't have to be talking about God or goddess. You don't even have to use the word spirit, right? But what spiritual learning and processing is creating opportunity for your event participants, your workshop participants, your circle participants to connect in with something that is bigger than their egos, to connect in with something that is bigger than themselves, without creating this spiritual learning and processing level. Your participants aren't going to be motivated to create the change that they want to change. And here's why: because when we don't connect with something that's bigger than our egos, we don't really trust. we don't feel those winds of inspiration and trust, and like something bigger has our back, and that there's a bigger purpose for these changes, for these transformations, to employ the whatever skills you're teaching on an intellectual level. So whether you call it higher power, inner wisdom, or nothing at all, you still want to create a spiritual level of learning and processing for your audiences, so that they can be inspired and so that they can trust to create change. And when I train facilitators on how to be masterful, some of the things that I teach around opening up and unlocking the spiritual level of learning and processing for your audiences is, number one, I teach a lot how to use archetypes when you facilitate. Archetypal energy is spiritual energy. It's energy that's bigger than we are, whether you're talking about the victim or the judge or the wise one or the priestess or whatever it is. And as facilitators, we need to be really skilled and masterful at knowing how to activate those bigger energies as needed, as necessary, literally how to harness and leverage and activate those energies in the group in order to create that spiritual level of learning. We also need to know how to really use and harness the energy and the power of the group itself. There's so much spiritual connection and learning and processing that can happen when that wind of inspiration can move through the group as a whole. So, and skilled facilitators know how to make that happen in the room, and it just creates so much more learning, so much more connection to you, connection to the group that's there. It's so big. And of course, using different rituals can also be a way of activating that spiritual connection and that spiritual level of learning and processing. The fourth level of learning and processing that you absolutely always want to have is the physical level of learning and processing, literally creating the learning in the body, taking all of the intellectual, emotional, and spiritual movement that's happened, the new ideas and all of that learning, and then to lock it in to the body, to the DNA, to the cells. If we don't have a body experience of the learning, of the shifting, of how we want to feel, then the transformation can't really happen, because then we don't have a body memory of it. And as physical beings, we live in our physical bodies. We need to have those physical experiences and those body memories. You think about little kids and how they learn best. They learn through their bodies, right? They take the world in through the five senses. They learn themselves into being through their bodies. They play house. They pretend to be a mother. They pretend to nurse. They pretend to be doctor. They try things out with their bodies. We're just like children. We take the world in through our five senses. So when we're at events, we need to learn on that body and on that physical level as well. This is why when I teach facilitators, I teach them a lot how to use different physical exercises. This is where ritual can come in as well, because ritual is really about taking things that are intangible inside of yourself and making them physical through ritual actions, right? We move our bodies when we do ritual. We take things into our bodies when we do ritual. So you definitely want to have this fourth level as well. You want to have all four levels that I've spoken about today: the intellectual level, the emotional level, the spiritual level, and the physical level. You want to have all of these four different types of experiences present when you're facilitating your groups and your circles. If you don't, then again, the learning isn't going to go as deep as it could be. The shifts aren't going to go as deep, the transformation and the impact. So I really hope that this was helpful for you today. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you more on this. Bye.